Hey, I'm Matt Rogers. As a real estate broker here in the San Francisco Bay Area, I spend my life at the intersection of DIY projects and the closing table. Lately, I've seen a lot of homeowners spend thousands of dollars on upgrades that are actually just expensive mistakes that they'll eventually have to rip out. My channel went viral for telling the truth about what kills resale value, and today we're looking at 9 home trends that designers and your local broker say are officially tragically dead. And stick around for the end because I'm going to tell you why those foil geometric wall panels that everyone is buying on Amazon are the fastest way to make a $2 million home look like a cheap hotel. First up, mid-century modern obsession. Look, we all love an Ames chair, but the head-to-toe look is officially over. Whether you're planning on selling tomorrow or staying put for the next 20 years, you want your house to feel like a home, not a period piece movie set from 1965. When every single piece of furniture has those same tapered legs and walnut finish, you've essentially frozen your home in a specific moment in time. The problem with a time-stamped house is that it feels like a museum, not a living space. In 2026, when it comes to design longevity and resale value, it's all about the mix. If you don't blend different eras and textures, your home feels dated the second the trend shifts. Remember, you're going for a curated home, not a catalog showroom. Next up is Chevron. And just to be clear, I'm talking about the upholstery pattern, not the place where you go to spend $6 a gallon for premium gasoline. Of course, that is if you're in California. I know in Europe, it's much more expensive, but let's be real, both can be a major drain on your bank account if you're not careful. The word chevron actually comes from the French word for rafter. It's that inverted V that mimics the way the bones of a roof meets at the top. It's a design that's literally been around for centuries, but for some reason, about 15 years ago, we decided to put it on every single rug, pillow, and armchair in the country. The problem with Chevron in 2026 is that it doesn't accent a room, it screams at it. It's a high contrast, high energy pattern that makes a space feel busy and honestly a little dated. Whether this is your forever home or just your, for now home, you want your decor to feel intentional, not like it was from a 2012 time capsule. This pattern creates so much visual noise that it actually makes a room feel smaller and more cluttered. If you want that geometric interest without the dorm room vibes, look at herringbone instead. It's the more sophisticated, grown-up version of the V-shape that won't make your guests dizzy. Number 3 is ikat. Now, you might know the look even if you don't know the name. It comes from the Indonesian word mengikat, which means to tie or to bind. It's actually a brilliant ancient technique where the threads are tie-dyed before they are even put on the loom. That's why the patterns have those signature blurry bleeding edges, because it's nearly impossible to line up dyed threads perfectly. It's supposed to be a soulful handmade art form. The problem is that the home decor industrial complex got a hold of it. Over the last decade, we saw a flood of cheap mass-printed ikat patterns on everything from throw pillows to shower curtains. Regardless of your timeline for the property, the blurry look has started to feel, messy. In 2026, that global boho vibe has been replaced by what I call quiet luxury. When a buyer or even just a guest walks into a room filled with printed ikat, it creates a lot of visual static. It feels busy and temporary. If you love the look, stick to one authentic hand-woven piece as a statement. But if your living room looks like boho chic Pinterest board from, 2015, it's time to trade those blurry prints for solid, high-quality textures that actually makes the room feel grounded and expensive. Number 4 is a touchy subject, but we need to talk about it. It's the Buddha-inspired decor. We've all seen it, the stone Buddha head on a bookshelf or a meditating statue tucked into a corner to create a Zen vibe. For a long time, this was the go-to shorthand for a peaceful, mindful home. But in 2026, designers are calling this out for what it is. It's a cliché. The problem isn't the figure itself. It's the mass-produced, sold off-the-shelf version of Serenity. When you use a sacred icon purely as a styling accessory, it often feels shallow and lacks real depth. In the design world, they call this Buddhamania. It's using a symbol as a prop rather than a piece of art. From a broker's perspective, this is what I call a personalization trap. A home should feel like a sanctuary, but a themed Serenity actually does the opposite. It makes the space feel like a 2010 yoga studio. It's a visual distraction. If you genuinely practice the faith, your space will reflect that naturally. But if you're just looking for peace and quiet, skip the statues and use materials to tell the story. Natural wood, raw stone, and layered lighting creates actual zen without the tacky catalog ordered shortcuts. Don't let your decor try too hard to tell people you're relaxed. Let the room actually be relaxing. Next up is number 5, and this one really bothers me because it's a total value killer. Cheap chrome. Now, I want to be clear here. Real high quality chrome can be architecturally stunning. The word itself actually comes from the Greek word chroma, meaning color, because of the brilliant reflective compounds it creates. It's an incredibly hard, durable element, and when it's plated over heavy, solid metal, it has heft and a glow that feels expensive. But that's not what we're seeing in most homes today. We are seeing the fast furniture version of those hollow, lightweight, ultra shiny tubes that make up budget coffee tables and bar stools. The problem with this kind of chrome is that it's a cold material. It doesn't develop a beautiful patina over time. It just collects smudges, fingerprints, and tiny scratches that make it look dull within months. In the real estate world, I'm always looking for materials that have gravity. If I can pick up your luxury coffee table with one finger, it's not an upgrade. It's a placeholder. In 2026, that shiny and new look is being replaced by finishes with actual depth. Unlacquered brass, oiled bronze, or even matte black steel. Cheap chrome makes every other finish in your room look less expensive by association. If you want your home to feel substantial and high-end, you have to stop buying furniture that feels like it's made of tinfoil. Number 6 is a trend that I have seen age incredibly poorly. That's over-the-top glam. I'm talking about mirrored nightstands, dressers with rhinestone-encrusted handles, and anything that sparkles like a disco ball. You know, there was a time when this was marketed as Hollywood Regency or high-end glamour, but in 2026, it has officially reach its expiration date. The problem with mirrored furniture is that it is visually exhausting. Mirrors are meant to open up your space, but when you turn your furniture into a mirror, it actually highlights the chaos. It reflects every fingerprint, every speck of dust, and every power cord on the floor. From a practical standpoint, it's a high maintenance nightmare. Like I mentioned earlier, the design world has shifted completely towards quiet luxury. This is the idea that quality should be felt through texture and subtle natural materials, not shouted through bling. Over-the-top glam furniture feels like it's trying too hard to look expensive, which usually has the opposite effect. It makes a room feel cold and impersonal. If you want a space to feel high-end, you don't need to be shiny. You need it to be substantial. Swap those mirrored surfaces for warm woods or matte finishes. It is much easier to live with, and it won't make your bedroom look like a 2012 Vegas hotel suite. Now, before we get into the final items and that Amazon foil disaster that I promised, I want to hear from you. Which of these trends are you currently looking at in your own living room? Drop a comment below. I promise I won't judge, but I will tell you if it's worth keeping. And if you're finding this helpful, hit that subscribe button and the like button. I'm here every week helping you navigate the difference between a home that looks good on Instagram and a home that actually builds equity. Next on the list is something that looks incredible on a 4-inch phone screen. Jewel-toned velvet sofas. I'm talking about those deep emerald greens, sapphire blues, and ruby reds. On paper, it sounds like the height of sophistication. But as someone who has to look at these pieces in person during a home tour, I'm here to tell you they fail the real-life test. Velvet is a high-maintenance relationship. It crushes, it mats, and if you have a dog or a cat, that sofa is essentially a giant lint roller. By the time a few months of real living happens, that jewel stone starts to look like a dusty stone. In 2026, we've moved away from high-drama furniture that you're actually afraid to sit on. We're seeing a massive shift towards high-performance fabrics, linens, and textures that have warmth but can actually handle a Saturday afternoon nap. If your sofa requires a specialized brush and a sprayer every time someone sits on it, It's not luxury, it's a chore. Number 8 is a classic that has unfortunately been overdone. The button tufted Chesterfield. Now, the Chesterfield design has been around since the 1700s. In the right library or office, it's a masterpiece. But the extreme tufting trend we've seen recently is officially on the way out. From a practical standpoint, those deep button wells are basically crumb canyons. They are magnets for dust, hair, and anything else that falls out of your pockets. When I'm walking buyers through a house, a heavily tufted sofa often looks heavy and dated rather than classic. Like I mentioned with the mid-century look, you don't want a single piece of furniture to dictate the entire era of the room. In 2026, the trend is moving towards tight back sofas and clean, simple cushions. They look sleeker, they feel larger, and most importantly, they are a lot easier to keep clean. You want your furniture to frame the room, not dominated with 1,000 tiny shadows. And finally, the trend that actually inspired this video, those 3D geometric foil panels and faux tin ceilings. I have a very specific story about this. A few years ago, I was at a client's multi-million-dollar custom home. You know, we're talking about top-tier finishes in every room. They had installed these metallic geometric panels on the massive feature ceiling. Now, I have to admit, at that time, they actually looked decent. They fit the vibe of the room, and they definitely had that wow factor people look for in a custom build. But I knew right there and then that the look wouldn't hold up. I can't explain it, but it just gave me that gut feeling that this was a moment and moments passed. Sure enough, 5 years later, they wanted to sell. We had serious sophisticated buyers through that house, and the feedback was almost identical across the board. They would look up and say, the tinfoil ceiling is an interesting choice, but we definitely won't keep it if we buy the house. That is the danger of these high concept materials. It might look sharp for a photo shoot today, but it doesn't have the soul to last 5 years. No matter where you live or what your home is worth, when you are putting your hard-earned money into an upgrade, you should be looking for longevity. You don't want to build a project for the next person, and you definitely don't want to invest in a trend that has an expiration date. If you want architectural detail on your ceiling, invest in real copper, real tin, or custom wood millwork. Don't spend custom home money on a look that people are already planning to demolish before they even close escrow. The best home improvement you can make is the one that stands the test of time. Don't build for a 15-second social media clip. Build for quality and long-term value. Now that you know what to avoid, you need to know what actually works. If you want to see some upgrades that actually works, click right here to watch my next video. I'm Mac Rogers, Savvy Homeowner. Thanks for watching. I'll see you there.